Hello and welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today we're getting a chance to take a look at the top-end variant of Trek's Verve series. Trek makes this Verve, which is an upright comfort-style hybrid, and the version in front of us is the Verve 3. So this is third in line, and we're going to go into the specs and features that make this bike what it is, talk about where it falls in Trek's lineup, and a quick rundown of parts before we find out exactly what it weighs. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, I suggest you stick around and let's check out this comfortable bike. So without further ado, let's talk about the Trek Verve. Now this is the Verve 3 and we'll get into that in a bit, but the Trek Verve series is their upright and comfortable hybrid. Essentially what that means is they're getting a bike that's going to have more clearance going up to where the handlebar is. The saddle is going to be raked back a little bit. You can see that angle on the seat tube. And in doing so, that allows your hands to be up, your position to be back, and you to be in a much more comfortable position. Now, there's bikes that do this and do it in a way that make it a little less efficient. Think more of a cruiser style with those curved back bars. But what we have here is sort of the perfect mix between comfortable and still efficient. Now, there's a lot of brands out there doing this style of bike, but Trek does it pretty well. And the Verve series here is going to come in two flavors. So this is, of course, the standard frame, meaning that top bar is going across, but they also make it in a low step version. And that low step version is going to give a little more clearance to get on and off, but also be able to make it in a way that if you have some mobility issues or can't lift up your leg quite as far, that is the way to do it. I also like that low step, especially when you're adding a rack onto the back, because if you get a big bag out back, it's not going to be that great to have a rack and bag that keeps you from swinging your legs over. Now, throughout the Verve series, what they're all going to run is basically a solid front fork, which is a departure from some comfort hybrids that you'd see with suspension up there. But they do that because if we look at these angles, that's bent forward a little bit. It's got some rake to it. And because your position is so far back, you're not putting that much weight over the front end. So by removing the shock, that's going to allow it to be a lot lighter, to be able to put up, say, onto a car rack, or even make it a little easier to ride without much compromise on ride quality, because they're putting these wider 45 millimeter width tires. So this 45 millimeter width tire has some extra sidewall compared to, some of the narrower, more sporty hybrids that are on the market, and that's going to help with comfort as well. So in the hybrid series of things, Trek has essentially three different models, and those are all combinations of different styles of bikes. So Trek has their FX series, which they consider a fitness commuter, and that bike is going to meld together the performance of, say, a road bike with the position of a mountain bike. A little bit thinner tire and smooth rolling, but a focus on weight and speed. They also have their dual sport version, which is going to have a shock out in the front. It's got knobbier tires, and it mixes the capability of a mountain bike with the positioning of that FX bike. And then we have this Verve in front of us, and the Verve is combining the FX's performance on road and a little bit of the capability of the DS off-road. But then it mixes in the upright positioning from a cruiser bike without all that efficiency loss from those really, really relaxed cruisers. So it's a nice mix if the focus for you out on your ride is going to be towards the comfortable side of things, or maybe you have some limited mobility or flexibility, this bike is going to be the one out of the three for lineup. But just because it's comfortable doesn't mean it doesn't have capability, because the bike is rocking spots for rack mounts on it. You can run full fenders with it. A thing I really love about these bikes is they do have a spot for the cafe lock, which that allows a lock to go around, lock up the rear wheel. Doesn't keep somebody from taking the bike, but what it does do is makes it so that you can lock it up when you stop for a coffee and not really have to worry about it too much. And then up front, there is the capability of running fenders up front as well. So this could be a commuter bike, but it'd be a perfect bike for going out on vacation to the campsite, to the Cape if you're in New England like me, and be able to have something comfortable to be able to ride, but also perfectly happy doing a longer, full day adventure on the saddle. Diving into the part spec of this bike, I don't want to get too geeky, but I do want to talk about the things that essentially make this the Verve 3 over the other two models. So the Verve 1, which is going to be the least expensive variant, that's going to be coming with just the features that are needed to be able to make it comfortable and functional and durable. And then when you go to the Verve 2, they sprinkle in some extra comfort to the bike. They add things like a suspension seat post out back, an adjustable handlebar we'll get to in a bit, but it still remains with a little more basic drivetrain. And then when you go to the Verve 3, The real magic here is they're upgrading the wheel set, they're going to be upgrading the drivetrain, and essentially pulling everything together. So the frame itself is the same on all three. It's going to be the Alpha Gold aluminum frame. So that Alpha Gold aluminum frame has nice shaping to it, internal cable routing. You do have an aluminum fork coming down to the front end. On the Verve 2s and Verve 3s, both of them get this adjustable stem, which the stem allows you to adjust it up and down to either raise or lower that front end position however you feel is right. And typically on a Verve 3, and I think this is a change on this one just because of the COVID bike part shortage right now, but the Verve 3 would have had ISO-zone grips, which was essentially a V-shaped cutout for some gel to go underneath the grip. But this one is still coming with a nice ergonomic position for the grip. Now going back to the saddle is going to be a gel style saddle. This saddle is mounted up on a suspension seat post. Nice to see, to get a little extra comfort, of course, right where your rear end is. You do have a quick release lever that you can open and close to raise and lower the seat height. And then going through to the back of the bike, this is where much of the big difference is going to be. So here we've got a 2x9 speed drivetrain. So essentially 18 speeds, and you might say, well, James, the Verve 2 has a 3x up front, so 3 gears up front and 8 out back. Why would I want a bike with less gears? And the main reason is the 9-speed is going to have a nice spread in back of gear range, plus the 2 up front means you're going to have to do significantly less shifting to get the same combinations of gears. So up front, those 2 speeds are going to be a 30-46, and then out back is going to be an 11 to 36 tooth. And so what that means is we still get way below a 1-to-1 gear ratio, so climbing capabilities are totally included with this. But then that 46 and 11 is enough for some of the higher speed downhills, or if you wanted a hard gear to get a better workout. And it's all being shifted through the Shimano Alivio rear derailleur. This is a mountain bike inspired rear derailleur with their B-link there. The whole setup is nice because it's a shadow setup, meaning it pushes the derailleur in a little bit tighter so that you have less things to bump into each other, which is great, say, when putting it on a car rack. You do have a threaded bottom bracket. And then up top, if you're gonna have shifting via the Acera shifters. So it's a thumb button to go to an easier gear, index finger to go to harder gear. Right side is going to be rear gears, so your 9 speeds back there, and then the left is just the 2-speed. So essentially it's a high-low and then 9 speeds to adjust it. Personally, I think it makes it a little bit easier to use. And then you're going to have hydraulic disc brakes clamping down on 160mm rotors on the front and the rear. And the last piece to talk about here, of course, is going to be the tire setup. On the Verve 3, you're getting the H5 Hardcase Ultimate. The Hardcase Ultimate is going to be a super durable version of their H5 tire, which offers this nice smooth center area for smooth riding, but also relatively good speed. And then you can see it's got nice little knobbies down the sides. If you end up on a gravel rail trail, maybe some sand out on the bike path that you're on, it's still going to have plenty of grip to be able to hook the tire up and kind of keep you from going over. Well, anyways, now that we've taken a look at all the features of this here 2022 Trek Verve 3, I think it's time to find out exactly what it weighs. The actual weight of the Trek Verve 3 in a size medium is going to come in and weigh 32.32 pounds. Thanks so much for watching this video on the 2022 Trek Verve 3. Go ahead and let me know your thoughts about where this bike is, how it falls in their lineup, and would you see yourself going for a nice comfortable cruise on this rig? While you're at it, be sure to browse the channel and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that way you can see more videos like this to check out as well.